Hi everybody, welcome to First Chapter Friday. My name is Dawn, I work here at the Alameda Library, and today I'm going to be reading from the non-fiction book that is the Book of Radical Answers. Real questions from real kids just like you, and this is by Sonya Renee Taylor. And Sonya, amongst other things, is an artist, an activist, an author, and is well renowned for some of her work with activism. So she wrote this book because when she was younger, she had questions that sometimes adults didn't want to answer, and she wanted honest answers about them. So this was the idea for this book. So I'm going to read the introduction. When I was young, I had 10 billion questions. I wanted to know everything about everything. I had questions about my body. Will I have big boobs because Grandma and Aunt Julia have them? I had questions about rules we seem to have for boys and girls. Why do we say boys can't cry? I even had questions about how we were treating the planet. Why don't we recycle? The most frustrating thing about having all these questions was that no one ever seemed really excited to answer them. The truth is, sometimes people acted downright annoyed by all of my questions. Luckily, I didn't let adults in rotation with my list of curiosities stop my questions from coming. When they didn't have an answer for me, I went looking for it on my own. I read books, watched the people around me, and most importantly, I started taking guesses at answers. I used the information I saw in the world and my intuition. Intuition, that hard to describe feeling inside all of us that helps us know what to do. And I came up with ideas. I always double check my answers by looking for more information in books and from adults I trusted. But what I started to realise back then was that I was a smart human who already knew so much about life. Guess what? So do you. And I hope that after reading this book, you will feel more certain about that. Today I have lots of jobs. One of them is writing books like this one, but the most important job I have in the world is the work of spreading the idea of radical self-love. Radical self-love is the love we had for ourselves when we landed on this big spinning rock we call Earth. And that love is still with us. It is the energy that reminds us that we are already good enough, smart enough, awesome enough, just as we are. Radical self-love is here to call our attention to the fact that we have massive knowledge already inside of us to tackle the big issues that may arise as we grow up. After spending years doubting myself and being uncertain if I was good enough, I began asking the most important question of my life. How can I learn radical self-love? I have spent years exploring the answer to that question, and the answer I came up with is, you don't have to learn radical self-love. It's already inside of you. You were born with it. However, there are many messages we receive each day from the internet, the television, music, even school and businesses that tell us that we are not good enough and we should buy something or look like someone else to be lovable and worthy. It takes daily practice to learn how to recognise those messages and tune them out. When we do, we can hear our own radical self-love guidance much more clearly. I can imagine right now someone is saying, "Hey Sonya, what are some tools we can use to better hear our own radical self-love?" Well, I am glad you asked that. In the back of this book are 10 tools for radical self-love. These tools will help you avoid believing negative messages about yourself and teach you how to stay connected to your own loving inner guidance. So if you are reading something in this book that tells you to listen to your radical self-love and you find yourself saying, "Great, but how do I do that?" Turn to the back of this book and pick 1 or 2 tools to practice. I promise they will help you stay on track. The Book of Radical Answers was written to help you grapple with real-world issues, and the questions in this book were submitted by kids just like you. They were between the ages of 10 and 14, and mostly from the United States, with a few from other countries as well. Most importantly, These questions came from young people who were brave enough to ask about tough and complex subjects, topics some adults won't even talk about. That bravery is how I know young people have what it takes to grow into brilliant, capable, and thoughtful adults. Some of you submitted questions that were outside of my experience, and I didn't know enough to try and give an answer. While I think I'm pretty damn smart, I do not know everything. Shocking. Thank goodness I have super smart friends from all walks of life. I recruited some of those smart friends to answer questions they had lots of experience in, and those answers are titled Ask an Expert. There are a couple of promises I want to make to you about this book. First, I promise to give you honest answers that remind you of how powerful and full of possibility you are. Second, I promise to share all the ways growing up can be fun, complicated, silly, strange, sometimes difficult, and still wonderful. I won't avoid the hard parts, but I promise to always remind you of the joyful parts. You are phenomenal and can get through this messy but magical life as long as you can access what's inside of you already. That is knowledge and radical self-love. So that is the introduction, and just to tell you some of the topics that are covered in here. There's a section on bodies, on emotions and sexuality, on gender, race and racism, families, school, friends, growing up, government, climate and environment, God and religion, and then there's the 10 tools for radical self-love and some resources at the back. So I hope you pick this book up. I think it's going to be a great one for everybody to read. And yeah, it's going to answer some of those questions that you probably don't want to ask anybody else. So this is the book. Okay. Thank you for listening, guys. Bye. Bye.